and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Well, today Trump goes back to Butler, and, growing up, my parents and grandparents and people would always talk about where they were when they heard Kennedy was shot. And they all know. You could go to a hospice community of 100-year-old people that have the most severe cases of Alzheimer's, and you ask them where they were when they heard Kennedy was shot, and they will tell you exactly where they were, what they were doing, and who they were with. And with Butler and Donald Trump, it's a very similar thing, right? You remember where you were when you either watched or heard that Trump got shot in Butler? And, Bobby Kennedy Jr., who they're soiling his reputation and getting him thrown out of things as much as they can, but he'll be back with Trump. Don't worry. When Trump's in office, with this breaking story that a Kennedy has had affairs. Robert Kennedy Jr. a couple years ago did an incredible interview with Megyn Kelly about the assassination of his uncle and his father. And you guys can go look up that interview. It's very extensive. But basically he said that the deep state killed both his uncle and his father because he opposed the war in Vietnam. He opposed what the establishment wanted, the military-industrial complex. And there's a very similar thing with Donald Trump and why they shot him. This president, President Trump, is the only president of the United States that made it to the office of president without being under the control of the donor class of the time, or not being groomed for their entire life like a George W. Bush type. And I know a lot of people say, well, Obama came out of nowhere. That's not true. I don't want to get sidetracked on the history of Obama. But Obama, Bill Clinton, these guys that you think came out of nowhere, that's not true. These guys that make it to the White House are either groomed from an early age, recruited somehow, like a John Kerry type, and Obama or Clinton type. They inherit it like George W. Bush, or they got something on them. They compromise them. And Biden is a mix of a couple. He's both compromised and just corrupt. But Donald Trump got by them. He got by the establishment overlords in the 2016 race. They did not take him as a serious candidate. Remember, they were talking at the time, oh, Trump's just a reality TV star. They were calling him a Kardashian. And they never understood the movement that has been behind Trump, the MAGA movement. And, that show, he was not, technically he was a reality star. But what they didn't realize is, and didn't want to think because the arrogance of the media and the political class, they didn't realize that The Apprentice and The Celebrity Apprentice were created because Donald Trump was the definition of the American success story. Everybody loved and supported him. He's like Mr. Monopoly. If they made Monopoly in the 80s or 90s or 2000s, Donald Trump would have been the Monopoly man. And if you remember, even on Fox, in the first campaign, Shepard Smith was still on Fox, and I remember him and others having many conversations with these talking head jerks on not just Fox, but the other cable news networks, that these huge crowds that show up at the rallies, at the Trump rallies, are just there to see a reality star. Kim Kardashian could do this. And then by the time they realized it was a serious movement, they made this move to have a brokered convention. Remember this? In the first campaign, they were talking about having a brokered convention, and that's when they started to realize how popular he was, and he got by him. So, I'm not going to go through the whole history of the MAGA movement or Trump, but he slipped by the powers that be, the donor class, the political class, the deep state, and the media. Before they took him as a serious candidate and realized his popularity in 2016, it was too late. He got it. So, and That's why they shot him. He was shot in Butler because his movement that you're a part of, I'm a part of, many more millions than ever before are a part of, are going to put him back in the White House. And you got to understand something. When they shot Trump in Butler, he had not yet chosen J.D. Vance as his running mate. So if the worst would have happened in Butler, what would have happened? Who knows? We didn't have J.D. Vance as his handpicked political apprentice yet. Maybe Don Jr. and Eric would have come out and said, you know, my dad was going to pick J.D. Vance, or maybe that wouldn't have even, who knows what would have happened. But I remember watching it. I've seen it many times since. I watched again yesterday the shooting. And if you want to go back and watch it, you go on Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube, and they have a video that a lot of people haven't seen. It's from way back behind where they were. It's a long shot where you see the whole crowd. And you know, it was when President Trump had his town hall last night with Luna, a Vietnam veteran came up, and man, I can't believe how old these Vietnam veterans are. You know, these Vietnam veterans are some old timers today. And he said to President Trump, he says, when you went down, I thought the worst had happened. And so did I, didn't you? It's a miracle. And I'll tell you, we still don't have answers. We know why he was shot. He was shot because he's winning. What's the motivation? Well, because he's winning. And going back there today is so brave of President Trump. It really is brave of President Trump. I mean, you know, and the disgusting way the left and the media are talking about Trump, even still today, after he was shot, after the Iranian plot, after the golf course attempt on his life here in Florida, they still say he's a threat to democracy. He's a threat. He's a threat. He's a danger to democracy. Threat to democracy. Danger. This is the most irresponsible talk I've ever heard on national television. By the way, if you're new to my channel, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Subscribe to my channel if you don't mind. If you're already subbed, thank you so much, and please like the video. But for him to go back there, it takes so much guts. You know, this Vietnam veteran last night that was at the town hall speaking to President Trump, this guy had met Trump before and gave President Trump his Purple Heart. And what the guy said to him, he says, when you went down, I thought the worst had happened, and you got up and you said, fight, fight, fight. He says you didn't even have a gun to fight back with, and you got up. You know, they wanted to carry him out. He said no. He said no, and he got up and he said, fight, fight, fight. And I showed this here on my channel when I first got this, but my wife had took the photograph of Trump getting up when he says fight, fight, fight with the flag over his head, had it made into we got the photograph, a beautiful photograph, and we have it framed, and it's hanging in our living room by our front door. And I still can't believe it happened. But you know, you go back, and a couple things about Butler when that never Trumper shot President Trump. You know, I watch all the Trump rallies and speeches, and usually what happened, I usually have it on Right Side. Sometimes if they're on TV, I'll have it on the TV, but mostly Right Side Broadcasting. And they'll tell you, okay, Trump expected to speak at 6 o'clock, so I'll make sure I have it on at 6, but he's always late. He's always a lot late. And but I'll have it on, and I'll do things around the house. And boy, oh boy, he came out on almost on a dime. He came out almost completely on time, right? Have you ever seen President Trump on time like that? And the reason that he's late is not because he's irresponsible. It's because when he gets to these things, he's got to, meet and greet local politicians, photos, donors. There's security issues. But in Butler, they got him out there right on time, didn't they? Oh, my goodness. Which is an indicator that, well, why did they have to have him out there on time? What was that about? It's almost like they were coordinating something, right? Exactly. But the video they have on Right Side Broadcasting, it's from the zoomed out shot, real, like at the actual distance. They're on that press area in the back, and their camera's a wide shot of the whole venue, and you see the stage. And it's the actual. I don't think they zoomed in or out. I think it's just where they would have been, just standing there seeing. And you see all those thousands of people, and everyone knew it was shots. I mean, we're MAGA people. We know what gunshots sound like outside. They sound, like those pops. People jumped. They got down, but no one left. This is the only mass shooting event I've ever seen where people didn't run out in a panic. And those people stayed there. And why did they stay there? I believe they stayed there for two reasons. One, they wanted to make sure that he was okay. Okay? And two, they were ready to protect him if something else came along. That's what I think. Have you ever seen a mass shooting? President Trump talks about this sometimes. When there's a mass shooting, people storm out. And now he's going back. This guy, Donald Trump, is not only the first president to not be a part of the establishment in some way, whether they got him on the take like Biden, or his daddy was president or something, but he's also the only person that we've ever had as president who became president out of total reasons that do not have to do with himself. Like any other person that's been a president is always running for president for something. A step up the ladder, to get rich, to lie about weapons of mass destruction and get a 20-year war going for the military-industrial complex, Bush and Cheney. But not Donald Trump. He doesn't need this. You know what it must be like for him and his family? And then a few days ago, Don Jr. came out and said they've been told that there's Iranian hit squads after members of the Trump family. What the hell? And Sonny Hostin and these other assholes are on TV all the time saying he's a threat, he's a danger, he's a threat. What the freak is wrong with these people? They are irresponsible people. And very famous story. I've told it many times, but everybody knows this story about President Reagan. When Hinckley shot Reagan and he went to the emergency room, and the doctors, the ER doctors, were about to do surgery on President Reagan. President Reagan said to the doctors, and this is a true story, I've heard the doctors talk about this many times that did it. President Reagan said to the doctors, "I hope you're Republicans." And the doctors, who were Democrats, by the way, said, "We're all Republicans today, Mr. President." Where is that attitude from the left today, from the political establishment, from the media? Where are they, right? Where are they? Where is that attitude that we're all after 9/11? Even Democrats came together. Remember, I'm in my car. Remember, how many of you had an American flag on one of those plastic things you would put in the window and roll up the window, and we had our flags flying on our car? Everybody did that for a long time. And I was watching Billy Crystal got together with Robin Williams and others, Whoopi probably. I don't remember if Whoopi Goldberg was a part of it. She's real trash now. And they did a version of Comic Relief, but for it might have been the Concert for America. I can't remember. And Billy Crystal came out. Billy Crystal. And I don't know what his politics are. I assume he's a Democrat. I don't know. Billy Crystal came out and said, we're all we're not Republicans, we're not Democrats, we're Americans, Billy Crystal said, after 9/11 at that Concert for America. And there's certain incidents that we've all lived through, if you're old enough, where the country comes together in times of trouble, right? 9/11. President Reagan getting shot. Those of you that are old enough before my time President Kennedy or Bobby Kennedy getting shot. But the Democrats are not about that anymore. They are tyrants. They are terrible, terrible people. Terrible people. And, you know, President Trump, they were making a big deal in North Carolina about Fort Bragg being renamed Fort Freedom. And, you know, the Democrats, Kamala Harris and these Democrats have been going around the country for the last few years renaming things. Fort Bragg, they've renamed it to Fort Freedom. And they've renamed other forts and taken monuments down and such. This is a problem. You know, Fort Bragg is named after a general, General Bragg. And he was a Confederate general in the Civil War. He was also in the U.S. Army, of course, like most of the Confederate generals, or at least many of them. He fought in the Mexican War. When he was in the U.S. Army, General Bragg fought here in Florida in the Seminole Wars, and he was in the Confederate Army and was a general in the Confederate Army. He was an artilleryman, and Fort Bragg was originally a place where they trained artillery personnel, and that's why they named it after him. And so why do they name Fort Bragg? Why do they rename it? Do they rename it because it was named after a Confederate general and the Confederates were fighting for slavery? Well, that's their cover story. But what they don't tell you is General Bragg, who had left the Army years before the Civil War, he left the Army and he owned a plantation in Louisiana. I can't remember what type of plantation he owned, but General Bragg, that they named Fort Bragg after, owned a plantation in Louisiana. He probably owned slaves, and that's a god-awful thing. However, why did they rename Fort Bragg Fort Freedom? Did they rename it because he owned slaves? Did they rename Fort Bragg because General Bragg was a Confederate soldier who was part of the Democrat insurrection against the United States government? No, they renamed Fort Bragg Fort Freedom is because Bragg was a slave owner. He was a Confederate general who took part in an insurrection. That's true, but they renamed the fort because he's a Democrat. And all these racist things that they've renamed, these military bases they've renamed, these monuments they've taken down, they're all monuments or forts, things that were named after Democrats. The Democrats are tyrants. They own slaves. Everything that the left tell you is a stain on American history was brought to you by the Democrats. Vietnam, Tuskegee experiments, the internment of Americans of Japanese descent, slavery, the Civil War, which really was the Democrat insurrection. All these things were Democrats. So all these bases like Fort Bragg being renamed Fort Liberty, they're wiping out the history not just of this country, but of the Democrat Party. They're trying to rewrite the history of the Democrat Party, a racist insurrectionist party who has a history of discrimination against every group that's not white. This is the Democrats. And that's why they renamed Fort Bragg. You know, here in Florida, I'm not originally from Florida. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I've lived here almost my entire life since I was 11. And there are places still that are open to the public that have been around for a long time that used to be racially segregated. There's a place not too far from here that is an old city hall that's been turned into a children's museum, but they still have the signs over the bathrooms that say colored or white. You don't want to take that down. You don't want to rewrite our history. And the Democrats are trying to rewrite the history of the Democrat Party into something else. I'll tell you another thing. I study American history. I don't talk about it too much here, although when it does apply, I like talking about Fort Bragg and General Bragg. But I was watching some great documentaries on the Civil War last night. And and the sacrifices. So many men and women, but so many men, young men, gave their lives who were never remembered, except by maybe their immediate family. And all those that died in the Civil War were to end slavery, bring equality to this country. There's been so many sacrifices in this country. And last night in the town hall with President Trump. They were talking about how North Carolina is getting neglected. Why is North Carolina getting neglected? You know, I was reading an article this morning of how much money Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have given to those terrorists in Gaza to rebuild their country after they attacked Israel and did what they did. Hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild Gaza. And you know the other ones. How much have they given Ukraine? They used all the FEMA money for illegally as a slush fund to fund their operation to the left. And they were talking in President Trump's town hall last night in North Carolina that these people in North Carolina are not being helped by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden because they're white and they're viewed as conservative. And there was someone had asked a question of this was before the town hall. I was watching on Right Side Broadcasting, and someone said, it might have been the two hosts they had, I don't know their names, but one of the I'm pretty sure this was one of the hosts on Right Side Broadcasting, made such a great point about what Kamala Harris and Biden are doing. It may have been during the town hall, but it might have been one of the commentators before. If you guys were watching, let me know. But I thought I'd like to know who did it so I can credit them, because this was such a brilliant point about what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the Democrats are doing with the southern border they've erased. All of us are descendant of immigrants from some point. But how many of us speak that native language, right? German, French, right? Speak English. But we don't have British accents. We're Americans. But that's, because when our ancestors came here, they became Americans. They immersed themselves in American culture. The great American melting pot. And what this person I saw say yesterday, and again, I don't remember if this was the commentator, the guy on Right Side yesterday or during the town hall, but it was so brilliant. He said, what they're doing now is bringing people here from all these countries, like the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio, as an example, but it can be any one of these communities, the Venezuelans of Aurora, Colorado. And they're not becoming Americanized. They're becoming independent pockets with their own language and culture intact. And I hadn't really thought about it that way, in such a hard way. And I told my wife, I said, really what they're doing, I said, that is such a smart thing that they said. I wish I could remember who said it. What they're doing is, what I'm saying by they, I mean Kamala Harris, what they're doing by bringing these people over, they're setting up colonies. The United States is being colonized. We have the Somalia colony in Minnesota, the Venezuelan prison gang colony of Aurora, Colorado, the illegal Haitian colony in Springfield, Ohio. You understand what I mean? I mean, that's what's going on. And what they're doing is about so many things. But I played some audio on the program, on the radio earlier this week, and it was that idiot Tim Walz. Hold on, I better have some of this coffee before it gets cold. I've got the AC on in the car, and it'll make the coffee cold. Hold on. By the way, if you're new to my channel, my name's Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe. So this idiot, Tim Walz, there's a video of him coming out bragging that in the schools of Milwaukee, they speak 75 languages. 75 languages. That's not an education system. That's babble. How is a child getting an education if they speak 75 damn languages? Like I said, I've lived here in South Florida since I was 11 years old. And we've always had, English and Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I took it in high school. I took it in college. I still don't speak it. And I remember when I was in 9th grade, I took Spanish and I failed. And my teacher, Miss Wilkes, she said, Brian, she said, you are not going to be able to function in Florida by the year 2000 if you don't learn Spanish. So you better pass this class and learn Spanish or you'll never have a job, in Florida at least. By the year 2000. Well, I've managed. I've gotten by. But if you're speaking 75 languages in Minnesota, which is really a small state, how do you have a community? How do you have, a society? Michael Savage says, borders, language, culture. He's been saying that years. If you don't have borders, language, and a culture, you don't have a country. President Trump has grabbed onto that. We have a common culture and a common language, and this country is the most diverse country in the world. And what these Marxist, leftist, anarchists, whether it's Obama or Kamala Harris, what they do is they use America's love of diversity against us, right? They've been doing it for decades, and it's gotten worse. And, President Trump is so brilliant going to Butler today. Did you see there? This is on my X. If you guys follow me on X, Brian Craig Show on X. Kamala Harris was giving a speech at her gathering, and the teleprompter broke. Did you see this? And she repeated the same thing like 4 or 5 times. She was speechless without the teleprompter. I do a 3-hour radio show every day. And I do it just like I'm talking to you now, off the top of my head. I don't have a word written down, And she gets up there, Kamala Harris, her teleprompter breaks, and she didn't know what the freak to say. She couldn't wing it for a minute. She couldn't vamp. She's brain dead. She's a bird brain. Now, a lot of people with Kamala Harris, and I think there's truth to this, and I agree with different parts of this, that Kamala Harris doesn't want to win, that Kamala Harris is scared of being president. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I also believe that the powers that be in the deep state, I know, and I've been saying this for since before President Trump was shot in Butler in July, but the deep state want him, or they want Kamala Harris to lose, and they want President Trump to win. And I know that's crazy to people, but remember, CNN, they did that debate with Biden and Trump. They were respectful to Trump and treated him properly, and they brought down Biden and forced him out. Okay? Kamala came in. She's a disaster. CNN, the day before yesterday, released a poll, and CNN, I talked about this on yesterday's program, CNN is projecting Donald Trump in a landslide victory in the Electoral College. CNN, a month before the election. That's unheard of. And CNN, of course, is the deep state. Everybody knows this. Okay? So, we're going to win. We're going to win. And these people in the deep state and also the Democrat establishment, and I'm not talking about most of these yokels you see. I'm talking about like the Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi level. They don't want Kamala to win either. They want a purge of their party because the Democrat Party has become so insanely lunatic, fringe, so far to the left they've fallen off a cliff. They know, these Democrat establishment people know that their party is not electable nationally anymore, right? So, no, this is not a latte. I will tell you, this is a Cafe Americano, which is 4 shots of espresso mixed with water and some cream. No lattes for me. Yeah. So, and I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, and I've been telling you this, that the Democrat establishment and the deep state want Kamala to lose, that she's a sacrifice candidate, meant to lose, like Bob Dole, like John McCain. Well, Biden yesterday came out and just trashed Kamala, saying that she's been there for every decision he's made in these 4 years that resulted in this country we have, where we have inflation, where life has become unaffordable to people in so many ways, and people are suffering and making tough decisions, And that's Biden throwing her under the bus. Biden doesn't want her to win because they pushed him out. She was a part of it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, how many people could do what Trump is doing today? Go out on a stage completely open where you were shot in July and go out there and talk. I don't care if they got the glass around you. That's freaking scary. And there was a second assassin in Butler in July, we found out, right? It wasn't just that never Trumper on the roof. I will never say his name. And make no mistake about it, he was a never Trumper. There was a second assassin in Butler, the Iranian assassin, right? This Iranian plot. He was there scouting it out, planning an attempt on Trump at a future rally. This came out 2 weeks ago. So think about that. We had two assassins, and this never Trumper in Butler. We find out there's a major connection between him and the Florida golf course assassin that nobody in the news has talked about. And that's that they're both in BlackRock videos, right? Both of them are in BlackRock videos. The Butler shooter is in one in a classroom about teachers and education, and the golf course shooter here in Florida is in a BlackRock video about Ukraine. What are the odds of that? What are the odds that both of them are in BlackRock videos? It's impossible. It's almost like it's almost as sure of a connection as a DNA connection between the two. And both of these shooters we've heard next to nothing about. You know, a couple weeks ago, if you haven't seen this, this is on my YouTube channel. I know a lot of you have watched it, but if you haven't, please go and watch it. I went to the spot where the shooter stood waiting for Trump to come across the golf course, at Trump's golf course. And I go from there to his getaway in the parking lot where the woman followed him, and I drove his escape route, and all the way to where he was arrested on the side of I-95, and I show it all on YouTube. And I remember I did that on a Thursday, a couple of Thursdays ago. And the reason I did it is that road in front of the golf course where the shooter was blocked off for a few days, and then the police lifted the barricades and you could go there. And my original plan, I did it on a Thursday. I was going to do it on the weekend, you know, because I work during the week and everything else, and I get up early and everything else. And I said, no, I better do it today because everyone's going to go. The media's going to be there. They're going to go. They're going to cover it, and they're going to do it. So I better do it. It's been over 2 weeks. Have you seen anyone else do what I've done? Walk, and by the way, when we get more information, I will update it when we have more information. It's basically a documentary vlog I did here on my channel from the spot he was standing at, waiting for the president, to his entire getaway and everything else. No one else has done that. I'm in shock. I thought for sure that the media and all of them would be doing it. The most I've seen is a couple seconds of video of the trees on Fox where he was standing. They want you to forget about these people. And they're not telling us anything about them. But there is a connection between the Butler shooter and the Florida golf course guy through that BlackRock. They've both been in BlackRock videos. So one thing I've wondered is the golf course shooter, where was he when Trump was shot? I know where I was. Where were you? Who were you with? I remember I was with my wife. Oh my goodness, we were crying. Crying, weren't you? How many of you cried when Trump got shot? I did. Then I cried again when he came out at the convention. You know, where was the golf course shooter then? Was he in Butler? Did they know each other? I don't know. But I know they're both in BlackRock videos. So that's a connection. I'm not saying that, I don't know if they knew each other, but did their handlers know? Did they have the same handler? I mean, there's, you know, here we have the president returning to Butler today, and there's been nothing about these shooters, really. You know, here we are weeks after the golf course incident, and I follow this closely because I live here not far from Mar-a-Lago in Trump's golf course. We don't know where he was staying here. We don't know who he was staying with. Was he living in his car? Was he staying in someone's house or apartment? We don't know any of this. How could we not know this? All this time later. You know, when I made my video on the golf course shooting, there are cameras everywhere. There's a 7-Eleven and there's a mobile gas station. They both have cameras all over. Where he was parked was at a U.S. post office. That's where the lady followed him to get the license plate. You know there's cameras at the U.S. post office. It's a federal building. Where's the video? The woman that got his license plate. We only know she's a woman because President Trump told us on television. We haven't seen any interviews with her or anything. And we know just as little about the Butler shooter, right? Because there's a cover-up going on. And the media aren't interested in getting to the bottom of it. So President Trump's going back to Butler today. And at great risk. At great risk. Really. And the MAGA movement today is bigger than it ever has been. Bigger than it's ever been, for a whole bunch of reasons. The MAGA movement's always been big. In 2016, 2020, the MAGA movement was the biggest political movement in the history of this country. But in the past few months, it's grown and grown and grown. And I think a case could be made that the MAGA movement is about 10 times larger today than it was in 2016. Would you guys agree with that? Because there's so many people that don't even like Trump for some reason. I don't know why everyone doesn't love Trump, but there's so many millions of people who don't like him, but now they're on the Trump train for a variety of reasons. Some of them, they're hungry, and the prices are so freaking expensive under Kamala Harris, and they can't afford to support their family or feed their kids. Some, they've woken up to what they're doing since he got shot in Butler. There's all kinds of things going on. The post office it's the United States Post Office. There's cameras everywhere. So so those that are anti-Trump now, why? Why are they against Trump right now? Really? Trump's running a brilliant campaign. And the new people that are on the Trump train, a lot of them are, they're still Democrats, okay? So this is an important thing because we're so close to the election. And I've recommended this to people quite a bit this year. A lot of people that are voting for Trump now are Democrats. They don't agree with us on much of anything other than the prices are out of control and they can't afford to live. So if you know anyone who's a Democrat who's voting for Trump, don't start debating these other issues with them. You don't want to turn them off. All right? You want them to vote for Trump. So don't get involved in discussions like I'll tell you, the left are trying to get a discussion going of abortion, a woman's right to choose. That's an important issue, but none of these issues matter if the United States is gone. And if Donald Trump does not win, it's not just that we're going to lose our country, we're going to lose our civilization. And I don't mean just America, I mean Western civilization is over. England has already fallen and is gone, okay? That's it. England's gone. It's gone. We're it. And we're gone if Trump's not reelected. So all these other issues that are important, the time to debate those issues is next year, not now. all right? You got to look at the big picture. And the left are going to try to do that. They're going to spend a lot of time mainly on abortion. They want you to talk and debate abortion, and Melania said this, and what do you think? I don't care at this point. This is beyond the importance of those things. We'll debate all that next year. Oh, as soon as he's president-elect, the economy will start to turn around. Because so much of the economy is based on the future. And when they know he's coming back, when he's president-elect, things will start to balance out. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. President Trump did have the border pretty much completely closed. In his first term, the Mexican army was guarding their northern border, our southern border, making sure people didn't come across. The wall was almost completed. He shut down sex trafficking through the southern border was almost completely eliminated. And Kamala Harris and Biden brought it back on day one. That's it. You know? But he'll shut it down again. Got to be shut down, right? You know, I'm going on a cruise with some of you on our listener cruise in March. I got to have a passport. I can't go around without documents. You know, I can't. They won't let me board the ship without my passport. All right? They ask for the passport when I go to board the ship, and you know what happens when I get off the ship? I got to show the passport again. Yeah, you know, on Inauguration Day 4 years ago, I was in this car. I went up to Mar-a-Lago to see President Trump on Inauguration Day. I filled up my car, $1.57 a gallon for regular unleaded. $1.50 a gallon. What is it now for regular? Oh my gosh, I don't even want to know. Maybe you can, but the cruise line I go on will not let you board without a passport. You probably just go on some dumpy cruise line. It's just happy to get your money. I go on Celebrity. No, you got to have your passport. They ask it for you right there. They won't let you in without the passport. That's right. That's right. Now, if you're a Venezuelan prison gang member, you need no documents, in or out. Mm-hmm. You know, I've traveled to South America. As soon as I get off the plane, first thing I got to do, check my passport. You know, check my passport. But not here. No passport needed. You know? And I'll tell you what's going on in North Carolina, that has pissed people off beyond belief. Oh my goodness, has it pissed people off beyond belief. You know? And because they see that these people, you know, when it came out that Kamala Harris and Mayorkas have been illegally stealing money from the FEMA emergency funds to set up these illegals around the country with their retirement plans, right? Government housing, Obama phones, their EBT cards and all that stuff. Some of them get debit cards. And they don't have money to give to the Americans that are in trouble after this hurricane in North Carolina. They offered $750 and they're not even giving it to all of them. That has really pissed people off. And you know what? They should be pissed off. I'm pissed off about it. My goodness. My goodness, this is total incompetence. But the Ukrainians, if there was a natural disaster in Ukraine, believe me, it'd be taken care of. Natural disaster in Haiti, they're there. Natural disaster in North Carolina, well, hey, you're MAGA, screw you. Just like those people in Ohio where the train derailed and they were poisoned with the chemicals from the train. That's a MAGA town. You're on your own. That's how the Democrats run the country. You know, this is what we talked about when Obamacare was being debated, and we talked about the death panels. And these idiots on the left would say, it doesn't say anything about death panels in this Obamacare bill. What are you guys talking about? Of course it doesn't say death panels. The system that the Democrats run is a death panel, and we're seeing that in North Carolina. With the government led by these radical Democrats, Kamala Harris, they decide who gets emergency aid, who gets emergency relief based on if they're white, no relief for you. MAGA, no relief for you. Your community's mainly Republican, no relief for you. That's insane. But that's a death panel. North Carolina is facing a death panel right now. It is messed up. Absolutely. You see it happening. Oh, man. I'm a little behind on my coffee today, guys. Slept in a little bit. It is messed up. It's very messed up in North Carolina. You know, I've been through so many hurricanes here in Florida, and I've been through some pretty bad ones where things are shut down, and it's rough. That's why, you know, when we have hurricanes, sometimes I'll show how prepared I am. I have a generator that can power my house. I have, you know, you can't go without air conditioning in the Florida heat during hurricane season. It's the hottest time of year. The hot weather is one of the reasons you have bad hurricanes. So not only do I have central air, I got a wall unit that I can power with my generator for air conditioning. I have all kinds of ways to get fuel and to power the generator. I got all kinds of things that go. I have hurricane windows, hurricane shutters. And a lot of people think I'm over-prepared. It's not that I'm over-prepared. I've been through a lot of hurricanes. You know, I've got my weapons, I've got my ammo. You know, everybody knows how to use them. You know, if we have to defend ourselves. You know, so I've been through hurricanes without being prepared, and I know how bad they can get. So I am as prepared as you're supposed to be for a hurricane. When it's coming, you know, I fill up the cars with gas, get the fuel for my generators, buy all the supplies that I need and everything else. And I have enough to get by for about a month before I need to resupply when a hurricane's coming. And most people don't do that, but I know how bad it can be. And but right now, you know, it's hard for people to prep because hurricane preparation is expensive. And with the prices of things today, people that would normally prepare for a hurricane in hurricane areas where they get hit by hurricanes wouldn't go out and buy as many supplies because things are so expensive. You know, the last time we had a hurricane, I could load up and get everything I need for $500. Now it costs over $1,000. So how many people can afford to go out and spend $1,000 to have enough fuel and supplies to get through a couple of weeks of not having electricity and being bogged down in your house after a hurricane? Not many could afford to do it. And even people that could afford to do it would say, You know, one thing I do is I don't buy anything for hurricane preparation that I won't use anyway. Like all the gas I get from my generator, hurricane doesn't hit, great, we didn't need the generator. I just don't have to go to the gas station. I can put it in my cars for the next however many weeks, right? I don't buy any food that I won't eat anyway, right? That won't keep. You know what I mean? So we don't buy anything we wouldn't use anyway when a hurricane's coming. But still, it's expensive. So a lot of people, even here in Florida, are not as prepared as they normally would be because of Kamala Harris's inflation. So then they get hit, they lose everything, and, oh, you're white, you're MAGA, oh, you know, no help for you. We've got to make up for past injustices that none of us experienced. You know, it's disgusting. Disgusting. North Korea, home to Trump's true love. What is he supposed to do? How are you supposed to deal with these dictators by going out and calling them terrible things? You know, Donald Trump, the reason he's such a great international negotiator is because he knows what these dictators like Putin are all about. They're about two things: power and the money, money and the power. And he goes to someone like Putin, or, you know, like I give an example with Kim Jong-un. What does he do with Kim Jong-un? He tells Kim Jong, this is Trump, he tells Kim Jong-un, he shows him that map from space of the Korean Peninsula. South Korea is all beautiful lights at night. North Korea, there's like one light bulb. He says, would you like North Korea to be like this, where you'd be rich? Kim Jong-un says, yeah, boom, he's ready to deal. What's he, and how's he going to end the war in Ukraine? He's going to tell Putin he's going to lose his money. He's going to lose his money, whether it's oil or anything else. And Putin will do what Trump wants him to do. That's how he does it. Because money. Money, money, money. That's what these guys are about. Power and the money and the power. The gangster paradise. And he knows how to deal with them. That's it. That's Trump. He knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, these wars that are going on in both Russia and with Israel and Hamas, which Hamas is Iran. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are directly responsible because they drove up the price of oil, making Iran and Russia rich on oil. So they've got money to wage war. Under Trump, they didn't have enough money to wage war. Exactly. I mean, this is, he's brilliant. Donald Trump is brilliant. But make no mistake about it, President Trump is going to Butler today for us, for this country. That's it. I remember after 9/11 was all settled, President Trump, he went to Ground Zero. Remember that? And I saw President Trump on, believe it or not, this was after, I don't remember how long after 9/11 this was, but it was not long after 9/11. I saw President Trump on Cavuto on Fox, and he had a plan to rebuild the World Trade Center. That thing they built now is, I think, ridiculous. I don't like what they did. Do you guys like what they put in Ground Zero? President Trump, he told Cavuto this. He says what his plan is, and he said this: we rebuild the exact same buildings and make each one story higher as an FU to the monsters that knocked these buildings down. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And that's why when President Trump was talking about running for president in 2011, that's why I was on the Trump train then. That was brilliant. Now, of course, they didn't do it, but, because, it's too good of an idea. But that was a brilliant idea. Get our skyline back in New York, and each one story higher. Great idea. And look, and today in Butler, I hope Elon Musk comes out on stage and speaks. Oh, my goodness. Here we have the richest African American, Elon Musk, right? Richest African American because he's from South Africa. And that's important because all these idiots that say he hates immigrants, that Donald Trump hates immigrants, last time I checked, Elon Musk is a naturalized U.S. citizen. He's an immigrant to the United States. He's an American now, just like First Lady Melania Trump. Oh. The crowd's going to go nuts when Elon comes out. That's amazing. Amazing. And Elon Musk, I'm sure he's got a million businesses, but his two major businesses, of course, are Tesla and SpaceX, right? Both Tesla and SpaceX, the entire business model is based on deals with the U.S. government. SpaceX is the U.S. manned space program now he's contracted through. And the Tesla, there's all kinds of government tax breaks and everything that go in with all that green crap. Yeah, Starlink too. On our cruises, we have Starlink internet. On our cruises, that Starlink is awesome. The internet they used on cruise ships before that sucked, but that Starlink internet, we have it on the celebrity cruises. I can't believe how fast it is. I wouldn't mind having it at home as a backup, right? But anyway, Elon Musk, his two major businesses are, SpaceX and Tesla. He's got many others, but those are his two. Would he be backing President Trump and going against the Democrats that are running the country now if he did not know that President Trump was going to get reelected? Hell no. It's amazing to have Elon Musk there. It's absolutely amazing. That's how big the Trump train has gotten. It's too bad Joe Rogan's such a wuss, right? Joe Rogan's such a little pansy. Why isn't Joe Rogan openly backing Trump? Because he's a coward, that's why. He's a coward. Come on. Now, if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. This is most definitely where MAGA comes to talk. I live stream every day. I'll be back later today, I'm sure, with everything that's going on in Butler. And during the week, I'm on the radio. I host a morning show on the radio on a bunch of radio stations, and I live stream on YouTube when I'm on the radio. And I upload my podcast here, too. And I may have a new podcast with my wife today. So make sure you subscribe, click that notification bell, and if you're already subbed to my channel, please do me the favor of liking the video. That helps a lot too, guys. All right, I'm going to go, but I'll be back later, I'm sure. Thanks for watching, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Take care.